The night the rain refused to stop, the biker gang leader noticed the Bruises by accident, and in that moment the world tilted on its axis, pulling two broken lives into the same inevitable storm. The diner smelled of burned coffee and old grease, neon lights flickering like tired eyes, and Marcus Hale, a man feared across 3 counties, sat silently with his leather-clad crew while something far more dangerous than violence crept into his chest. He had survived knife fights, prison yards, and betrayals by men he once called brothers, but nothing prepared him for the quiet devastation he saw written on the skin of a waitress who tried too hard to smile. Before the story truly unfolds, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the idea that even the hardest hearts can change, take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, subscribe to the channel, and tell us in the comments where you're watching from. Your support keeps stories like this alive. Marcus Hale had built his reputation on silence and control. As the leader of the Iron Vultures, he ruled through presence alone, a towering figure with steel-gray eyes and a past soaked in blood and regret. The diner was neutral ground, the only place left in town where bikers, truckers, and exhausted night workers existed without conflict. It was here Marcus went when sleep would not come, when the ghosts of his past demanded attention. That night, the waitress named Lily Carter moved through the aisles with careful steps, as if her body belonged to someone else. Her uniform sleeves were too long, pulled down even in the heat, but when she reached across the table to refill Marcus's cup, the fabric slipped just enough to reveal yellowed fingerprints on pale skin, bruises layered over bruises like a history written in pain. Lily had learned to survive by being invisible. At 26, she carried the weight of years she never lived freely, trapped in an apartment that smelled of alcohol and fear, with a man who measured love by control and punishment. Every shift at the diner was a small escape, a place where she could pretend her life was normal, where the clatter of plates drowned out the shouting in her head. She believed no one noticed her, and that belief was the only thing that kept her standing. She did not know that Marcus Hale noticed everything, especially broken things, because he recognized them too well. The Iron Vultures were not good men. They ran guns, intimidated rivals, and lived by rules written in violence. But Marcus had rules of his own, carved from the wreckage of his childhood, from a mother who died too young and a father who taught him that pain was the only language the world respected. Seeing Lily's bruises cracked something open inside him, something he had welded shut years ago. He watched her throughout the night, the way she flinched at sudden noises, the way her smile faded the moment she turned away, and with every passing minute, the weight in his chest grew heavier. Marcus did nothing that night. He paid the bill, left a tip far too large, and rode away into the rain with his men following. But the image of Lily's arms followed him home, haunted his dreams, and refused to be ignored. Days passed, then weeks, and Marcus found himself returning to the diner again and again, always watching, always waiting, trying to understand why one woman's suffering mattered when he had walked past suffering his entire life without blinking. Lily noticed him too, though she did not know why. The biker leader never spoke, never stared openly, yet she felt safer when he was there, as if the shadows around her softened in his presence. It made no sense to her. Men like Marcus Hale belonged to a world of danger she avoided at all costs. Still, something about the way he carried himself, the quiet restraint in his movements, told her he was not like the man waiting for her at home. The breaking point came on a cold Thursday night when Lily arrived at work with a split lip hidden under makeup and a limp she could not disguise. Marcus saw the fresh wounds immediately, saw the way her hands shook as she poured coffee, saw the fear swimming just beneath her forced calm. This time, the silence inside him shattered. Memories surged back, of his mother covering bruises with scarves, of neighbors who heard everything and did nothing. Marcus understood then that seeing and ignoring made him no better than the men he despised. That he began to change his routine. He started asking questions without words, leaving notes folded beneath his tip, small messages of encouragement and reassurance written in careful handwriting that betrayed a softer side no one knew existed. Lily found those notes at the end of her shifts, reading them alone in the break room, tears falling onto the paper as she realized someone saw her and cared enough to notice. The notes never promised rescue, never demanded anything. They simply reminded her that she mattered, that she deserved more than survival. Meanwhile, Marcus faced resistance from his own crew. The Iron Vultures sensed the shift in their leader, the way his attention drifted, the way his temper cooled. In their world, compassion was weakness, and weakness invited death. But Marcus stood firm, drawing lines he had never drawn before. He pulled the gang out of deals that targeted the vulnerable, shut down operations that crossed his newly defined boundaries. Some men left. Others stayed, loyal to the man who had once saved their lives and now seemed determined to save his own soul. Lily's situation worsened before it improved. The man who controlled her sensed her growing distance, the subtle strength returning to her posture, and responded with increased cruelty. One night, she arrived at the diner barely holding herself together, eyes hollow, spirit fractured. Marcus saw it and knew waiting was no longer an option. He did not confront her abuser with fists or threats. Instead, he used something far more powerful. He used his resources, his connections, and his willingness to burn down his own empire if necessary. Quietly, efficiently, Marcus arranged for Lily to have a way out. He connected her with a safe place, legal help, and a new job in a town far enough away to break the chains that bound her. He never asked for gratitude, never expected acknowledgement. His only request, written in the final note he left her, was that she choose herself and never look back. The night Lily disappeared from the diner, Marcus felt both loss and relief. The booth where she used to stand empty coffee cups felt colder, but he knew she was free. Over the months that followed, Marcus continued to change. The Iron Vultures transformed under his leadership, shedding members who thrived on cruelty and becoming something closer to a brotherhood that protected rather than preyed. Marcus funded shelters, paid medical bills, and intervened where he could, always quietly, always without recognition. Years later, a letter arrived at the clubhouse, postmarked from a small coastal town. Inside was a simple thank you, written by Lily Carter, now a cafe owner, survivor, and woman who had learned to breathe again. She wrote about mornings without fear, about laughter that came easily, about a life rebuilt from kindness she never expected. Marcus read the letter alone, tears tracing paths down a face hardened by decades of survival, and for the first time, he allowed himself to believe that redemption was not a myth. If this story is touching your heart so far, take a moment near the end to like the video, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe, because every small action helps spread messages like this to people who might be waiting for their own sign. Marcus Hale never claimed to be a hero. He remained a man shaped by darkness, but no longer ruled by it. The diner eventually closed, the neon sign flickering one last time before going dark, but its impact lingered in the lives it unknowingly connected. Lily carried her past with her, not as a wound, but as a reminder of her strength. Marcus carried his too, using it as fuel to protect rather than destroy. Please comment below and tell us what this story made you feel and whether you believe one act of kindness can truly change a life. In the end, the biker gang leader who once inspired fear became a quiet guardian of second chances, and the waitress who wore her pain in silence became living proof that being seen can save a life. The rain eventually stopped, the roads dried, and somewhere between the roar of engines and the clink of coffee cups, two broken souls found healing, not through violence, but through the courage to care when it mattered most.